Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're plunging into an idea you've almost certainly heard, the 10% brain myth.
Right, that one.
It's that captivating, persistent, yet, scientifically debunked notion that humans only tap into a tiny fraction of their mental potential. It's a compelling what if, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It taps into something fundamental, I think. This human fascination with untapped potential. It inspires countless stories and, as we'll see, sparks some really passionate debates.
Precisely. And that's our focus today. We're taking a deep dive into the user reviews of Luc Besson's 2014 film, Lucy.
Lucy, yeah.
This movie didn't just, flirt with the 10% brain myth. It basically launched into it asking, what if this myth was true, and what would that actually look like?
A pretty bold move, narratively speaking.
Totally. So our mission is to unpack how this audacious central premise polarized audiences and critics. We're looking beyond just the star ratings to understand why people reacted with such fervor, whether praising it or condemning it.
Right, the why is key here.
And for you, the learner, who thrives on understanding diverse perspectives quickly, this deep dive should illuminate how people grapple with fact versus fiction, and what makes an idea truly resonate, even when it's purely fantastical.
Yeah, the Lucy reviews are a fascinating case study for that, how our expectations about science, entertainment, maybe even philosophy kind of collide.
Okay, so let's unpack this core concept. The film Lucy essentially takes this widely circulated idea of using only 10% of our brains and just runs wild with it. What is that foundational premise, and how does it kickstart the story?
What's interesting is how deliberately the film constructs its entire narrative around this single dramatic what if. So Lucy, played by Scarlett Johansson, she finds herself in Taiwan and she's coerced into being a drug mule.
Okay.
The drug itself is specific, a synthetic called CPH4. The film describes it as a chemical mothers produced during pregnancy to stimulate bone growth, which I should add right away.
Not a real thing.
Not a real thing, no.
Ah.
CPH4 and its function are completely fictional inventions for the movie. Adds another layer, to its scientific liberties.
Right. So the plot kicks off when this drug, CPH4, leaks into her system.
Exactly. That's the catalyst. From that point, she begins to access more and more of her brain capacity and gains these extraordinary abilities.
So it's not just getting a bit smarter. It's a radical evolution, really fast. What kinds of powers are we talking about as her brain capacity supposedly increases?
Oh, it's an astonishing progression. Really ramps up. Initially, it's control over her own body, then others' bodies.
Wow, okay.
Then it quickly escalates to things like telekinesis, manipulating matter itself. She also gets telepathy, accessing vast amounts of information instantly.
Like digitally, or just knows it.
It seems like she just knows it, accesses it directly, and ultimately she even gains the power to traverse space and time.
Whoa!
Yeah. But there's a flip side. A crucial kind of chilling aspect is this gradual loss of human emotion. She becomes more and more detached.
The cost of power trope.
Sort of, yeah. And throughout this, you've got Morgan Freeman's character, Professor Norman. He's giving these lectures on brain capacity, providing a kind of scientific framework that Lucy's transformation seems to validate.
He's the explainer.
Pretty much. He explains what is supposedly happening, in broad strokes anyway, not really the how, beyond the magic drug.
And it's precisely this radical leap built on that debunked myth that just ignited these polarized reactions, right? This wasn't just another sci-fi movie, it became a real lightning rod.
It really did.
On one side, fierce criticism about the science, and on the other, this passionate defense of its entertainment value. What kind of arguments were flying around in those user reviews?
Well, connecting this to the bigger picture, Lucy sparked a really fascinating and often quite heated debate about what science fiction even means to people.
Right.
So many reviewers, especially those who, value factual accuracy or mentioned having a basic science education, they just outright dismissed it.
Just couldn't get past the premise.
Couldn't get past it at all. They call the premise a complete myth, scientifically inaccurate, intellectual garbage. Even, quite vividly, beautiful, putrid garbage that spits in the face of biology and physics.
Wow, beautiful putrid garbage. That's memorable.
It is. Another reviewer called it moronic. They lamented Morgan Freeman blabbering one-liners that wouldn't impress Jaden Smith, actually suggested his scenes hurt your soul by trying to intellectualize, nonsense.
Ouch. So for that group, it was just fundamentally flawed.
Fundamentally, 100% nonsense. A steaming pile of excrement, utter stupidity. The science being so wrong just overshadowed everything else for them.
Okay, but then there was the other side, right? And equally vocal counter-argument, basically saying, hey, you're missing the point.
Absolutely. Just as passionate. This group argued that the negative reviewers were completely missing the entertainment value. They really stressed, Lucy is fiction, it's not a documentary.
Like, lighten up, it's a movie.
Pretty much. As one reviewer put it, what are these guys comparing this film against? There is no comparison against real-world science here. They openly acknowledge the 10% premise is false.
But that wasn't the point for them.
No. They saw the fun part as exploring the what if it was true scenario. For these viewers, the appeal was a fun, fast summer movie. It invited suspension of disbelief.
That crucial ingredient for enjoying fiction sometimes.
Exactly. That conscious choice to set aside logic for the story. They didn't want strict facts. They wanted a thrilling ride. They felt the critics were expecting harmony to actual science that was never there,
right,
and maybe lived tightly inside the box with no means to look outside it.
Interesting framing. So for them, it was about imagination.
Yeah, unleashing their limitless imaginations, as one put it.
That's such a clear divide, rigor versus pure fiction. It really highlights how differently we all evaluate stories. And for you, the learner, it brings up a great question. Where do you draw the line between creative license and maybe scientific responsibility in what you watch or read?
It's a great question. Is there a point where even suspension of disbelief breaks if the core idea is so widely known to be false?
Yeah, even if you just want entertainment. It's a really personal threshold, I guess.
It really is. For some, it's about the internal logic of the fictional world, even if the premise is wild. For others, the sheer audacity is the draw, and they're happy to just go with it.
So, okay, beyond that huge science debate, which clearly took up a lot of oxygen, what else stood out in the reviews? The visuals, the story itself, philosophy. How do people react to the other stuff?
Right, there was definitely more to it. Visually, the film often got high marks. People called it absolutely stunning, praised its inventive visuals and breathtaking special effects.
So it looked cool?
Generally, yeah. Many liked the fast-paced, crazy ride, the pure mayhem of the action. Those car chases in Paris got singled out one of the best ever seen on screen, according to one review.
High praise, but I sense a but coming.
Well, yes. Even the visuals weren't universally loved. Some reviewers found things like constant realism glitches, or the cuts to completely random images and sequences.
Like the nature documentary footage.
Exactly, that stuff. Some found it weird for the sake of weird, or just confusing and frustrating, like random wilderness footage that felt tacked on, creating this sort of universal absurdity.
So, ambitious visuals, but maybe sometimes distracting.
That seems to be the gist for some viewers. A bit of a double-edged sword, maybe.
Okay. But despite the wild premise and maybe those jarring bits, you mentioned philosophy earlier. It seemed to strike a deeper chord for some people, surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly, or perhaps not, depending on what you're looking for. Despite the fantastical stuff, many reviewers found Lucy profoundly thought-provoking.
Really? How so?
They felt it could inspire you to think deeply about evolution, human nature, and life. Some said it encouraged personal growth and exploration.
Wow, okay, that's more than just popcorn fare.
Definitely. Some reviewers connected its themes to modern philosophy, or even described it as Hinduism explained in Hollywood style. They saw it as an awakening to the endless possibilities of technology and science.
So it genuinely made people think.
It seems so. It made people question their perception of science and reality. One called it modern philosophy for everyone. Another interesting takeaway was someone concluding it makes you think sometimes it is better not to go full throttle, but slow down and enjoy a smaller capacity.
That's quite profound, actually. Especially from a film others called
Intellectual garbage, yeah. It's a huge spectrum of reaction, from garbage to modern philosophy. Really shows how subjective art is.
Absolutely. And what about the nuts and bolts, the acting, the plot itself, beyond the core idea?
Right. Scarlett Johansson's performance also split opinions. Some called her incredible, thought she nailed the smart girl genius superhero role, found her believable, even mesmerizing. Others found her wooden, totally unconvincing, especially as she became more emotionless with her growing powers. One reviewer even found her portrayal of fear laughably bad.
Oof. And Morgan Freeman. You mentioned the criticism before.
Yeah, his role as Professor Norman was frequently seen as completely useless or just phoning this in.
Yeah.
Mainly there to explain the plot, not really advance it meaningfully.
It's just info dumping.
Essentially. And the plot itself, often criticized, called a mess, having no real message or plot. And the ending.
Ah, the USB drive ending.
That one. Yeah, that was frequently cited as an anticlimax. Some found it hilarious in a bad way, or just proof it was the worst movie I have seen at the cinema.
So definitely divisive on almost every level. Science, visuals, philosophy, plot, acting.
Pretty much covered all the bases for disagreement.
And beyond those artistic and scientific debates, the reviews also touched on something more serious, a more contentious issue. We should probably acknowledge the concerns raised about alleged racism.
Yes, that's a critical point to include. A significant critique from some reviewers focused on racial insensitivity in how Asian characters were portrayed.
What were the specific points?
They highlighted Asian characters being cast mainly as villains or, quote, props. They cited specific scenes like Lucy shooting a Taiwanese taxi driver or a patient in a hospital, arguing these suggested a kind of disregard for Asian lives within the story.
Okay.
The reviewer also mentioned dialogue, like a character saying, "Who speaks Chinese anyway?"
Yeah.
And the way Taiwan, specifically Taipei, was depicted as a lawless city.
Which they argued was unrealistic.
Yes, pointing out that Johansson's character walking around openly with guns in Taipei would be highly unlikely given Taiwan's strict gun laws. So this added another complex layer of criticism beyond just the science, focusing on social representation.
Right. Okay, so wrapping this all up, what does this wild ride through the Lucy reviews mean for us, as viewers, as learners?
Well, I think when you look at a film like Lucy, you see how one single provocative idea, even one that's widely debunked, can just ignite these massive discussions about science, art, philosophy, even, as we just heard, societal perceptions.
Yeah, it's fascinating. For you, the learner, this case study really shows how a film's perceived value often isn't just about facts. It's about its ability to tap into something else, maybe desire for power or escape or just philosophical wonder, even if that wonder is built entirely on a myth.
Exactly. It really highlights how truth and entertainment can be such a subjective experience.
So it raises that big question for you. In this world overflowing with information, how do you keep an open mind? How do you let yourself explore these fantastical narratives, but without, switching off your critical thinking?
Yeah, how do you tell the difference between genuine intellectual exploration, however abstract it might seem, and what some people might just call intellectual garbage?
It's tricky.
It is. It's maybe about being aware of the premises a story uses, trying to understand its intent, what is it trying to do, and then deciding for yourself what value you take away, whether it claims to be fact or pure fiction.
Absolutely. Maybe the true limitless capacity isn't really about unlocking 100% of our brains like in the movie.
Maybe not.
But maybe it's about our boundless human ability to question, to create, and to find meaning, even in the most audacious leaps of imagination.
While still staying grounded, hopefully, in our understanding of the actual world around us.
Right. This deep dive into Lucy definitely shows that fascinating friction when those two impulses, imagination and critical thought, meet head on.
So the question for you is, what will you choose to explore next, armed with both?